everyone, my name is Allison. I'm the Programs, Outreach, and Youth Services Manager here at Monterey County Free Libraries. Thank you for joining me today for another Self-Care Sunday. Today we are going to do an art project. We are going to make pumpkin luminaries just in time for Halloween and for fall. For this project you will need a few supplies. One, you will need a glass jar, size of your choosing. It can be bigger than this, smaller than this, all up to you. You are also going to need some Mod Podge. You are going to need a brush to apply the Mod Podge. I've used this brush on a couple of Mod Podge projects before and it's fine as long as you clean it out really thoroughly afterwards, but you might not want to use your best paintbrush. You are also going to need scissors. And then for the outside of our luminary, you will need tissue paper, whatever color you choose. We are doing pumpkins, so I picked traditional orange, but pumpkins come in a lot of different colors. And you're going to want some black construction paper to make the face of your jack-o'-lantern. And then, of course, you are also going to need a tea light or other candle to place inside. You can use battery operated or a real one. This one's a real one. Whatever you have on hand or whatever your preference is. Once you've grabbed your supplies, we will start our project. To get started, the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to cut out some squares or small strips with our tissue paper. So I have 3 colors here, 2 different oranges and a yellow. I'm just going to use the oranges for this. And I'm going to start by just cutting out some strips and then cutting those into smaller squares. And the size of your squares or your strips is just going to depend on what you want the texture to look like on your jar. So if you want it to look a little bit more smooth, you'll probably do some longer strips. If you want it to be a little bit more rough, kind of mosaic-like, you'll do a lot of squares. And then if you wanted to have different shades, you would mix up the squares between the 2 colors. So I'm just going to cut out a few to get started. I'm going to be using the smaller of the 2 jars that I showed at the beginning of the video, so I don't need quite as much to cover the surface as I would if I were using a larger jar. And if you get going and you realize that you need more, you can always cut more. I'm going to start off with those. So next we are going to take our black paper and draw the outline for our jack-o'-lantern. It can look however you would like it to. I'm going to go fairly traditional, triangle eyes, triangle nose, and then I'll do a nice big mouth. You can make yours look however you like. We're just going to cut out these pieces and save this for last. Okay, we're going to put these pieces to the side for now. They will come out at the end. And we're going to get started with our Mod Podge. You're going to want something to protect your surface. This is a cardboard box that I use for crafting purposes. As you can see, it has a lot of paint in it. So I'm going to use that as a container to put all of the Mod Podge and the brush in to make sure that I don't make a mess on the table. We're going to take the lid off. You can keep the lid around if you are going to be using an LED tea light inside. If you're going to use an actual candle, then you'll need to keep the lid off so that the flame can get oxygen. So we are going to get out our Mod Podge. Reminder, Mod Podge is very sticky. Roll up my sleeves a bit, and we are simply going to start by dipping our brush in and applying a layer all around our jar. when you have that first layer, you can take your tissue paper and start putting it down. You'll put one layer, and then if you want to do a double layer on top, you'll need to take your brush and Mod Podge over it. The Mod Podge will dry clear, so you don't have to worry about the white on your luminary. Oops. As you can see, I'm just kind of taking a very mosaic approach. I'll put another layer on. Just helps everything stick together. Tissue paper is great for projects like this because it's so thin, so it layers down really easily. And you'll just repeat this process around the entire jar. Okay, so I have gone around my whole jar. I really like the layered effect that the different colors did. You could go around another time with another layer if you like, but one is pretty good. And if you have a bigger jar, you have a lot more surface to cover. So next, we are going to take the face pieces that we made at the start and put aside, and you just need to decide where you want the face of your jack-o'-lantern to be. I think I'm gonna put mine here. Wherever you decide to put it, it's always good. Do another layer of Mod Podge so that it's nice and sticky. I'm gonna put my eyes on. With construction paper, you might need to hold it down a little bit so that it doesn't move when you're doing the top layer of the Mod Podge. The tissue paper, like I mentioned, is so thin, it sticks down so easily. It's really nice to work with. But for some thicker papers, it's good to hold it down to make sure that it's not going to move when you put your brush down on it. I've had that happen before, and it can really mess up a project. And as I mentioned, it's going to dry clear, so you don't have to worry about that white on there. Bring out my nose. Kind of looks like a cat. You can make any design or shape that you want. I was just picking the traditional jack-o'-lantern face. And you can do it with any colors you want. You can do this at any time of year. It doesn't have to be a pumpkin. Let's see, is my mouth too big? I think my mouth is a little too big, so I'm going to trim that up really quickly. You know what? As I'm going, I've decided I want to do a different mouth altogether. I like this kind of startled look, perfect for Halloween, like the pumpkin was just scared. So we'll layer that down. It looks like there's a ton of Mod Podge on here, and there probably is on yours as well. As you can see on the back, it is starting to dry a little bit, so you can see that it's not so white. You might also notice some spots where the tissue paper is coming up a little bit. So if you want to go back over with your brush to smooth it down, there might also be some areas where there are wrinkles. And if you want to add another layer of tissue paper on top of that, you can do that as well to get a more layered effect. But this is it. That's all you need to do. You'll just let this dry. It does take a while to dry, and especially if you have a bigger jar or have done a lot of layers. Once it is dry, you'll just get whatever you're using as your light source, and you'll put it inside. So that is it. A nice pumpkin luminary, perfect for Halloween. I hope that you enjoyed this video and have a great time making this craft, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.